From homeless to millionaire, how a black woman inspired by Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Amina's life started in the cracks of the city, between cold sidewalks and forgetful crowds. For years, the buzzing streets of San Francisco were her home. She slept under flickering street lamps, the asphalt biting into her skin, her stomach twisting with hunger, and her heart stubbornly clinging to a single dream: escape. Not just any escape, but a rise so fierce that even Elon Musk and Donald Trump, her unlikely sources of inspiration, would nod in respect. The city never slept, but Amina did with one eye open. She watched the glossy billboards shine and the expensive cars drift past like ghosts from another world. It was a world she had no business in, except in her mind. She devoured stories of billionaires, the way they crushed obstacles with raw will, how Musk built rockets and electric dreams, and how Trump carved fortunes from chaos. She wanted that fire always. Then came the invite, a mysterious card sealed in heavy cream paper, gilded edges that shimmered under the streetlights. A wedding in Napa Valley, the kind of event she'd only seen in movies, with golden gates and dozens of glass chandeliers dripping with crystals. It felt like a trap, or fate. The day she walked into that world, her pulse nearly stopped. White tents stretched over rolling hills, laughter spilling like champagne bubbles, and dresses that floated. The air smelled of expensive perfume and fresh-cut flowers. Every step was a mile away from the cracked pavement she knew. Then he appeared. Ellie. His face shadowed but unmistakable. Someone from a past Amina tried hard to forget. Ellie, with eyes like flint and a smile that didn't quite reach them. He was an entrepreneur too, but not the kind you read about in magazines. There was something darker, secretive in his gaze, like he carried stories sown with lies and regrets. He pulled her aside, the crowd blurring behind them. His words landed like thunder. "The host, he's not who everyone thinks. You won't believe what he's hiding." A lump clawed Amina's throat, secrets tangled with the glitter of the wedding. And suddenly, every shining smile around her twisted into something cold and hollow. Why tell me now? Because it changes everything. Your future, your past, even the meaning of loyalty. Her heart hammered, chest tight like a fist. Questions crashed. Who was the host? And what dark truth could unravel the perfect illusion of wealth and power she'd been chasing? Suddenly, the wedding's glitz felt like a stage set for disaster. Whispers rose, eyes darted, and Amina stood caught between two worlds, the life she dreamed of and the shadows she ran from. Was her path destiny or a trap? Could she face the harsh truths, or would she slip back into the safety of her broken dreams? The night stretched, heavy with secrets and promises. And amidst the glitter and silence, one question blazed in Amina's mind. What if everything she believed about success and love was a lie? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Ho ho! And let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact! Amina stood frozen, thoughts racing, breath caught. Eli's words twisted around her like a python, tightening with each heartbeat. The wedding buzz faded. Laughter and music dulling into distant echoes. She searched Eli's eyes, those flinty depths hiding secrets. But she had to know. What's lurking behind that smile? What truth? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. But before Eli could respond, chaos exploded. A loud crash came from the corner of the tent. Glass shattered, followed by a shriek that sliced through the air like a knife. A figure stumbled into view, his suit torn, blood staining the crisp white shirt beneath. Gasps rippled through the crowd, every face twisted in horror. Amina's heart raced, her mind scrambling for clarity. Who was he? What had happened? Eli's expression flipped, the mask of calm shattering. We need to leave. Now, he hissed, grabbing Amina's wrist, pulling her toward the back of the tent. She fell into step, her pulse thundering in her ears, but her eyes were locked on the chaos behind her. The wedding guests scrambled, whispers of fear bouncing off the walls like lost birds flapping for escape. This way, Heli urged, his grip firm but frantic. They dashed past the scene, Amina's gaze flicking to the fallen man who lay amidst broken shards. Hatred burned in his eyes as he met hers. Recognition hit her hard. It was the groom! Jack! Amina gasped. Memories flashed. His laughter, the way he spoke about dreams like they were tangible treasures. Wasn't he just standing at the altar hours ago, ready to say I do? But the blood oozing from his side painted a different story. Why did you make me come here? She demanded, yanking her arm free. I can't leave him! We don't have time for this, Eli shot back, panic creeping into his voice. But Amina couldn't tear her eyes away. She saw Jack's gaze. There was something in it. Urgency. Amina, help! He rasped. It shouldn't matter, right? He was rich. He had everything. But the desperation in his voice, a plea she couldn't ignore, tugged at her heart. Suddenly, a loud bang, like a gunshot, echoed. Someone screamed. Amina's blood turned to ice as shadows flared at the entrance. There was no escape. What's happening? She whispered, fear pooling in her stomach. Eli's eyes flicked nervously toward the chaos, and for a moment, the bravado faded. Amina, I never wanted you to know this. Jack is... His voice faltered before dropping into a whisper. He's involved in something you don't understand. That's why this wedding was a setup. Amina's breath hitched. Her world shook. Jack, the man she admired, part of something dark? Her chest ached as if a fist squeezed her heart. Lies! He can't be! She felt the walls closing in. All those moments she idolized wealth, those desires for a life better than her own, now felt like a cruel joke. Then light burst into the tent. The crowd's chaos transformed into a cacophony of panic. A group of men stormed in, faces obscured by masks, shouting orders, wielding weapons. We're too late, Eli shouted, and suddenly their path was cut off. Amina stared at Jack, whose eyes flickered with fear, guilt. It was all unraveling around her. Could she trust the man she once thought her ticket to freedom? Or had she just stepped into a trap of her own making? Confusion swirled within her. The desire to flee clashed against the instinct to save. With chaos rising, all that remained was uncertainty. The wedding had turned into a nightmare, and in the face of it, Amina realized she was just a piece on a board, perhaps a pawn in a game much larger than herself. What truths lay buried beneath the glitter? And could she still stand tall in a world filled with shadows? Or was it already too late? Amina's heart raced, a wild drumbeat drowning out the laughter and clinking glasses. Eli's words hung heavy between them. "Change everything," he had said. She felt the pulse of invisible strings pulling her across the expanse of this dreamy facade. Her world, once so solid in its bitterness, began to crack open. Eli's gaze flickered past her, scanning the crowd. "We need to talk, away from prying eyes," he murmured, urgency coating his voice. She nodded, confusion swirling. The thought of unraveling everything she had dreamed of set her skin on fire. But curiosity gripped her. The glimmering truth felt like a trap she couldn't avoid. A few steps away, they slipped behind a tree, a small sanctuary amid the spectacle. "This is about the host," Eli hissed, voice tight. "It's bigger than you think. The money, the connections, everything's a lie." A cold shiver ran down her spine. "What do you mean? Who is he?" The words slipped out, but she felt the weight of them. She was about to step into a darkness she had only glimpsed before. Eli's hands trembled slightly, the shadows around them growing thicker. "He's involved in something illegal." Her breath caught. The sparkle of champagne and laughter echoed faintly, yet it felt miles away. "You're scaring me. What kind of illegal?" Before Eli could answer, a scream pierced the night, slicing through the air like a razor. The laughter stopped. A wave of panic rippled through the crowd. Heads turned, eyes widening. Amina's instincts kicked in. She rushed back to the scene. But as she emerged, the world spun. A figure lay crumpled near the entrance, golden lights shimmering off a pool of crimson. It was the host, his face shrouded in disbelief, eyes wide, seemingly frozen in a moment of horror. The festive atmosphere shattered like glass, panic rippling outwards. Chaos unfolded. People screamed, some ran, while others stood paralyzed, their faces painted with shock. As paramedics rushed forward, the air thick with confusion and fear, Amina felt a powerful twist in her gut. Eli's expression shifted from urgency to something darker, unknowing dread. "Eli, what's happening?" she shouted over the rising panic. He grabbed her wrist, his grip like iron. "It wasn't just a freak accident, Amina. He was about to expose us, the secrets, everything. They couldn't let him live." Her heart stuttered. "Us? What do you mean, us?" He hesitated, his eyes darting toward the chaos, breaths coming shallow. "I've been working on this for years, trying to bring him down. But now, they'll come for us. You have to trust me." Amina's blood ran cold. "Trust you? You're the one who dragged me here." But beneath her anger lay fear. Could she have stumbled into something catastrophic? Into lives intertwined with criminal secrets, where her dreams of wealth could turn her into a target? Suddenly, the crowd parted. An imposing figure stepped through. A familiar face, one she'd seen in magazines, grinning from billboards. A tech mogul she idolized, rich and untouchable, until that moment. The man paused, scanning the scene with eyes sharp and assessing, like a hawk above a plummeting rabbit. Amina's heart raced. Did he know? Was this something larger than she'd ever realized? Everything she had admired, everything she wanted, was suddenly shrouded in the stench of a devastating truth. In that instance, among the murmurings and frantic whispers of the crowd, one thought stood out. What if her great escape had entangled her in a twisted net of deception? What if everything she believed about success and the path to it was only a shadow of a darker reality? Amina's heart raced, a wild drumbeat drowning out the laughter and clinking glasses. Eli's words hung heavy between them. "Change everything," he had said. She felt the pulse of invisible strings pulling her across the expanse of this dreamy facade. Her world, once so solid in its bitterness, began to crack open. Eli's gaze flickered past her, scanning the crowd. "We need to talk, away from prying eyes," he murmured, urgency coating his voice. She nodded, confusion swirling. The thought of unraveling everything she had dreamed of set her skin on fire, but curiosity gripped her. The glimmering truth felt like a trap she couldn't avoid. A few steps away, they slipped behind a tree, a small sanctuary amid the spectacle. "This is about the host," Eli hissed, voice tight. "It's bigger than you think. The money, the connections, everything's a lie." A cold shiver ran down her spine. "What do you mean? Who is he?" The words slipped out, but she felt the weight of them. She was about to step into a darkness she had only glimpsed before. Eli's hands trembled slightly, the shadows around them growing thicker. "He's involved in something illegal!" Her breath caught. The sparkle of champagne and laughter echoed faintly, yet it felt miles away. "You're scaring me! What kind of illegal?" Before Eli could answer, a scream pierced the night, slicing through the air like a razor. The laughter stopped. A wave of panic rippled through the crowd. Heads turned, eyes widening. Amina's instincts kicked in. She rushed back to the scene. But as she emerged, the world spun. A figure lay crumpled near the entrance, golden lights shimmering off a pool of crimson. It was the host, his face shrouded in disbelief, eyes wide, seemingly frozen in a moment of horror. The festive atmosphere shattered like glass, panic rippling outwards. Chaos unfolded, people screamed, some ran, while others stood paralyzed, their faces painted with shock. As paramedics rushed forward, the air thick with confusion and fear, Amina felt a powerful twist in her gut. Eli's expression shifted from urgency to something darker, a knowing dread. "Eli, what's happening?" she shouted over the rising panic. He grabbed her wrist, his grip like iron. "It wasn't just a freak accident, Amina! He was about to expose us! The secrets! Everything! They couldn't let him live." Amina's blood ran cold. "Us? What do you mean, us?" He hesitated, his eyes darting toward the chaos, breaths coming shallow. "I've been working on this for years, trying to bring him down. But now, they'll come for us. You have to trust me." Amina's heart pounded. "Trust you? You're the one who dragged me here." But beneath her anger lay fear. Could she have stumbled into something catastrophic? Into lives intertwined with criminal secrets, where her dreams of wealth could turn her into a target? Suddenly, the crowd parted. An imposing figure stepped through. A familiar face, one she'd seen in magazines, grinning from billboards. A tech mogul she idolized, rich and untouchable until that moment. The man paused, scanning the scene with eyes sharp and assessing, like a hawk above a plummeting rabbit. Amina's heart raced. Did he know? Was this something larger than she'd ever realized? Everything she had admired, everything she wanted, was suddenly shrouded in the stench of a devastating truth. Then, the unexpected happened. The tech mogul stepped forward, face taut. "Stop! Everyone, stay calm!" But his voice rang hollow. In a shocking twist, he turned to Eli, eyes blazing. "You thought we wouldn't find you? Frick! You're a dead man walking!" Gasps echoed through the crowd. Eli's expression turned from fear to disbelief. "You set this up! You were the one who used me!" Amina felt ice crawl under her skin. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. All this time, Eli had been playing a dangerous game, wrapped in layers of deceit. "Stop lying! Lure the traitor here!" The mogul barked. Tension electrified the air, and people leaned in, eyes wide. Amina's world tipped over. She was caught in a storm of betrayal. Eli had painted himself as the hero, but now he was the villain. What did that mean for her? "Stay back!" Eli yelled, but the harsh edge in his voice cracked. Amin's chest tightened. She felt the weight of 1,000 questions crash down on her. What was real? Who could she trust in a world painted with lies? The crowd retreated, whispers swirling like smoke, painting shades of doubt and fear. And in that chaotic moment, a chilling thought took hold. Was Eli her savior or her downfall? Amidst the unfolding drama, one truth hit hard. Everything she had fought for now stood on the edge of annihilation. What lay ahead could transform her life into tragedy or expose her to danger beyond her wildest fears. Could she survive the dark revelations that linked her past to the chaos swirling around her? Or was this just the beginning of a nightmare? Amina's heart raced, caught between Eli's urgent gaze and the buzzing sounds of the party. Shadows flicked across the tent's bright lights, each laugh feeling like a reminder of the life she dreamed of, now shrouded in uncertainty. "What do you mean?" she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. Eli glanced around, his eyes darting like a cornered rabbit. "You have to stay close to me. I don't think you understand what's at stake." "What are you talking about? Just tell me." Panic welled up inside her, sharp and biting. Before he could answer, the tent shook with an explosive crack. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wildfire. A band of armed security guards burst in, postures tense, eyes scanning, as they moved with fearsome precision. Confusion erupted. People yelped, drinks spilled, and the air thickened with dread. "Eli, what is happening?" Amina's voice trembled now, shaky and small. He placed a hand on her arm, firm and reassuring. But the look in his eyes wasn't one of safety. "You need to trust me. Follow my lead." Just then, a loud voice thundered across the chaos. "Everyone, remain calm. We're here to protect you." The host appeared, a tall figure with a slick, arrogant grin. Dot! Amina recognized him instantly. The man looked like the definition of lujo, all tailored suits and overpriced watches. Yet something about him felt wrong, as if the gold in his smile was tarnished by dark secrets. Is this a joke? Eli's voice was grave under the frantic murmur of guests. They're not just security, they're here for him. Before she could digest his words, the host raised his voice, confident and chilling. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Our wedding is about to take a thrilling turn. You see, loyalty sometimes demands sacrifices. Amina's throat constrained. Sacrifices? What kind of twisted game was this? Suddenly, a woman screamed. A bright flash erupted from the back of the tent, blinding lights mingling with the chaos. A shot rang out. A collective gasp filled the air, and gasps bloomed into something darker. A collective horror. Eli pulled her close, ducking behind a table. Stay down! Amina's heart pounded as adrenaline kicked in. She attempted to peer over the edge. Smoke curled, swirling around like ghosts escaping. She could feel Eli's breath hot against her ear. A hushed command. Whatever you do, don't look for who was shot. We need to move. But Amina's instincts pulled her towards the chaos. She glanced just in time to see the host collapse, blood seeping from his chest. The world shifted beneath her, a dark wave crashing over her dreams. Her breath caught. What did this mean? Was he the one she'd been drawn to? Was that fame painted in golden hues, now tarnished by failing she couldn't understand? Eli's grip tightened. Amina, focus! The crowd was exploding with panic. People were running, some screaming, eyes wide with fear. Eli tugged at her hand, pulling her deeper into the tightening grip of the crowd swarming for the exits. Everything we thought was solid is now falling apart, Eli whispered fiercely. This was no ordinary wedding. She felt her world unraveling, each step further plunging her into darkness. The man she had aimed to impress, the riches she coveted, all slipping away in a single moment. And then, in the thick of it, a strange realization flickered. The only person who had sought her out in this chaos was Eli. What game was he playing? Suddenly, distrust crept in, mingling dangerously with her feelings of gratitude. Time slowed. All she could hear was the relentless drumming of her heart as whispers grew louder, the world she wanted crumbling before their eyes. Was Eli her savior or part of the trap? Are we safe? She gasped, looking up at him. Not yet, he replied, voice tight. But I need you to decide. Will you trust me, or are you ready to face the storm alone? Amina's mind raced. The truth washed over her, like ice water. She was standing on the edge of something colossal. Outside, nothing would be the same again. The night stretched on, shadows deepening as Amina grappled with Eli's words. Her heart raced, the glimmer of the wedding fading into a blur of confusion. Everyone around her seemed lively and carefree, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Then, it happened. A loud crash sliced through the air. Glass shattered, piercing the bubbles of laughter like a knife. Amina spun around, her breath catching. It was Marcus, the wedding host, wearing a smart tuxedo that was now stained with red. Panic erupted. Murmurs of "what happened?" and "is he okay?" bounced around the space. Time slowed as Amina watched him fall, his body hitting the ground with a thud that echoed in her chest. Eli grabbed her wrist, urgency flooding his voice. "We need to go, now." Before Amina could process his command, he pulled her toward the exit. But she couldn't tear her eyes away from the scene. People surrounded Marcus, some kneeling, others shouting for help. The glint of glass littered the ground, a chaotic reminder of how quickly a perfect evening could crumble. "Let's go!" Eli's grip tightened, el hito de su palmo corriendo por su despelive. Le echa para el pie y lo siguió, mientras estaba en la gran bola, velando por el mar, el sabores del caos bajando descompuesta, incompás. Los extranjes se quedaban en la calera, de forma vía turmuvé. «Cuéntame», dijo el hosto. «Amina», gritó a títulos fuertes, vivencias entre adrenalina y confusión. Los ojos de Eli se oscurecieron, shadows reflectando algo de una paz. No suponía que dije nada, pero Superdunzo salía del aire como un platero. Eli toma un aire de expiración, todo cuerpo tenso. Marcus no es un cualquier hombre. Ha invertido de dinero gigantesco y estaba al pendiente de ser peligro. A mixture of disbelief and horror settled over Amina. Money laundering? And he was right here in front of everyone with secrets buried beneath layers of charm and laughter. But why tell me? What do I have to do with any of this? Eli's expression flickered, a mix of fear and urgency. You don't understand. You're a part of this now. If they find out... But before he could finish, the wedding lights flickered, plunging them into darkness. It wasn't just a bulb blown. The hum of the generators faded, and the air became heavy with something unshakable. Amina felt a chill creep up her spine. She glanced back toward the growing shadows deep within the tent. "What's happening?" "Stay close," Eli urged, scanning the night, his breath quickening. The sound of distant shouting began to rise. A stampede of feet converging. The laughter now morphed into frantic cries for help. Amongst the chaos, Amina caught snippets of conversation. "Police! They're here!" The reality hit her hard. Eli's hand was steady around her wrist, but beneath that calm exterior lay a storm of secrets and implications. This was no longer just about a wedding or a chance at a new life. This was about survival, digging into the very fabric of her dreams. And just as she turned to ask him more, a piercing yell cut through the night. It was Marcus, his voice ragged. "Someone help me! They know everything!" In that moment, a crushing weight settled in the pit of Amina's stomach. Now her dreams danced dangerously on a tightrope above chaos. Everything was spiraling, and within it, she felt the pull of a darker truth about herself, a truth she never expected to uncover. What if her rise was tied to the very shadows she'd been trying to outrun? What lay beneath her yearning for success? The silence that followed screamed louder than the chaos. Amina stood frozen, desperately aware that everything had just shifted, and she had no idea where the pieces would land. Amina's heart raced as Eli's words hung in the air, thick with tension. She fought to find her voice, but it was trapped somewhere between confusion and fear. The laughter around them faded, replaced by a heavy pulse of anxiety. What truth could change everything she thought she knew? Just then, a loud crash disrupted the wedding's joyful facade. It came from the main tent, where a flurry of panicked whispers erupted as guests turned towards the sound. A wave of dread washed over Amina. She followed Eli's gaze, and what she saw made her stomach drop. A man lay sprawled on the floor, his crisp suit stained deep red. Blood pooled beneath him like a dark flower blooming on the white fabric. Gasps echoed. The glittering crowd transformed into wild chaos. Eli gripped Amina's arm, his eyes wide and wild. "We need to go!" His voice was urgent, a whisper that cut through the panic. But Amina felt glued to the spot, her mind racing. Who was he? Was he the host? A guest? The answers felt far too important to ignore. "Wait! Wait!" she cried, pulling back against his hold. "What happened? Who did this?" Eli's expression twisted into something fearful. "I don't know, but we can't be here." Suddenly, shouting erupted, voices overlapping. "Call an ambulance!" someone screamed, but it was drowned out by the stampede of feet as people surged towards the exits. A desperate wave, trying to escape a horror they didn't understand. Amina's heart hammered in her chest. The glittering world she'd stepped into was unraveling, replaced by something dark and malicious. Her eyes turned back to Eli, searching for assurance. Instead, she saw the faintest flicker of recognition, a shadow of guilt that crossed his face as he turned to face the chaos. And then it hit her. "You know him, don't you?" "What?" Eli snapped, his patience fraying. "This isn't the time." But Amina wasn't listening. The pieces were falling into place with an urgency that left no room for fear. "You've been here before. You knew this would happen, didn't you?" He recoiled slightly, but the flicker in his expression told her all she needed to know. This wasn't random. This was planned. "Tell me the truth, Eli," she demanded, her voice rising over the chaos. Then, just like that, the lights flickered and dimmed. A shroud of darkness fell over the tent, plunging everyone into confusion. Amina's stomach tightened, not from fear, but from realization. This wasn't just about her. It was about a game much larger. In the frantic seconds that followed, she saw shapes moving in the shadows, figures lurking where she least expected them. Whispers climbed above the din, words woven with betrayal and secrets. Somewhere in that swirl of panic, she caught snippets. It has to be done, and no one is safe now. Eyes wide, Amina felt as though she was strapped inside a roller coaster set for a dizzying drop. The weight of treachery hung thick in the air. And then there was a scream, sharp, echoing. A voice she recognized. "Amina!" it called, choked and desperate. She spun around. It was her sister, Zuri, rushing through the chaos, her face a mask of terror. "Get out of here! He's coming for you!" Amina's breath caught. Fear gripped her, and it wasn't from the blood or the mayhem. It was from the raw urgency in Zuri's voice, the panic behind her eyes. "Oh!" Amina shouted. But Zuri was stumbling, her face pale as she grabbed Amina, pulling her towards the exit. "We have to go now!" Eli and Amina exchanged a fraught glance. He was backing away, his gaze darting between Amina and the chaos, filled with unspoken truths and shadows. "What have you done?" she whispered, not knowing if she wanted an answer or if she even wanted to hear it. The night stretched ahead, heavy with blood and betrayal. A churning storm of fear unraveling all around them. Among the commotion, one question stood sharp in Amina's mind. Who could she trust now? Amina's pulse thundered against her ribs as Zuri's grip tightened. We have to go now! Her sister's eyes were wild, filled with a fear that shot straight through Amina's chest. Every instinct screamed that they were in deep trouble. But one look back at Eli sent her heart racing in another direction. Wait! Amina's voice cracked. What's happening? Who's coming for me? The panic in Zuri's eyes chilled her. In that moment, the world around them faded to a blur. Shadows playing tricks in the dim lights of the party. Ilif expression morfo, slipping from startled to calma, even almost calculante. He stepped closer, shielding Amina slightly. You don't understand what's at stake. Before he could continue, the air split with another scream, sharp and piercing. It silenced the crowd. A tableau of horror froze everyone in place. A figure staggered into view, blood blooming across his white shirt. Vengeance etched into his features, even in the chaos. Amina's breath caught because it was Jack, the groom, the very man she'd seen standing at the altar just hours ago. Jack! Amina shouted, and chaos around her spun like a threat. His eyes were wild, a pleading look locked onto her. Help me! Amina! He gasped, collapsing to the ground. Zuri pulled at her arm, urging her away. No! We can't risk it! Amina's gaze flicked between Jack's frantic motion and Zuri's desperate grip. She felt torn, her heart thrumming wildly, each beat echoing with fragments of memories. Jack, with dreams and laughter, now diminished to a bloody heap on the floor. Look out! Eli shouted, abruptly snatching Amina away just as a shadow lunged at Jack. Throwing something solid into the fray. A knife? A flash of silver. Everyone screamed, and like a snapped elastic, the crowd erupted, tumbling in every direction, seeking safety from invisible peril. Amina's heart hammer as a sickening realización hit her like ice water. Eli, dime que no estás involucrado. It was a quiet plea laced with desperation, but suddenly her fear twisted her stomach into knots. Eli seemed to hesitate, the familiar facade crumbling for just a second. But before he could answer, Zuri screamed again, Amina, we have to move! With a horrifying roar, Jack struggled to rise, but collapsed again. Hands grabbed at him, then ripped away. The chaos intensified, bodies colliding, and Amina felt herself slipping further away from reason. But it wasn't until she turned her attention back to Eli that the world crystallized into horrifying clarity. Jack wasn't just the groom. He was the leverage in Eli's game. Amina, there's something you don't know. Eli's voice rose above the turmoil, panic spilling from his lips. It's bigger than this wedding. Just then, a sound reverberated through the air. A low, booming voice emerged through the screams. Enough! The crowd froze. A tall figure stepped into the light. Tall, imposing, the tech mogul from earlier. Yet it wasn't his sharp suit or piercing gaze that halted Amina's breath. It was the gun in his hand. Move, and I will end all of you, he declared, eyes sweeping as chaos teetered on the edge of resignation. A disbelieving gasp swept through the crowd. People began to pull back, and in that moment, the truth hit Amina like a tidal wave. This tech mogul? He wasn't just a wealthy entrepreneur. He was orchestrating everything, wedding or not. You were working for him, she accused, heart pounding like a war drum. Eli's guilt was palpable. But before any explanation could escape his lips, Jack roared, raw emotion tearing through the chaos. You think this is just a wedding? You think anyone here is innocent? Amina was frozen, caught in an unpredictable storm of allegiances and betrayals. Her vision swam. But one thing felt painfully clear. Everything she'd trusted had been a fragile illusion, a web of lies as delicate as the fabric around her. Secrets were slipping through cracks, revealing a world she'd barely touched. Then the noise crashed back like thunder. Interaction, laughter, lives that changed in just an instant. And as Amina looked from Jack to Zuri to Eli, whose face flickered between desperation and stoic composure, she realized the moment had already shattered them all. And as the gun clicked ominously, echoing in the deafening silence that followed, one question lingered in the air. Whose side was Eli really on? Amina's breath hung in the air, thick with tension. The gun glinted under the tent lights, the reality of the moment gripping her heart like a vice. All eyes were on the mogul, muscles tensed, the crowd frozen in a collective gasp. Eli's expression twisted between fear and something darker, and Amina felt her own heart race faster. "Put it down!" Jack croaked, struggling to rise. The blood soaked into the ground beneath him, but he fought to stand. "You don't have to do this!" The mogul's lips curled into a cynical smile. "But I do. You all need to understand the cost of betrayal." Panic rippled through the crowd, darting glances toward the exits, where hope lingered just beyond reach. Yet they were trapped in this moment, suspended between fear and the bitter taste of betrayal. Then, without warning, the mogul's phone rang. An intense vibration filled the air, penetrating the chaos. With a swift motion, he lowered his weapon just enough to glance at the screen. His eyes widened, shock weaving through his confident demeanor as he answered, voice low. "What? Now?" The crowd held its breath. Amina could feel the weight of the room shift. Questions hung like smoke. Suddenly, the mogul's expression twisted into something furious. "This is your fault!" "You were supposed to handle it! What is he talking about?" Amina whispered, heart pounding. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Eli had been too calm, too assured. With a growl, the mogul shoved the phone into his pocket, raising the gun again. "You've all made this personal!" Then, a sudden, crippling shout erupted behind them. "Stop!" It was Zuri, her face pale, rushing forward. The audacity of her intrusion snapped the air like a taut rubber band, and the crowd stirred. "What are you doing?" Amina's voice shook. "Get back!" But Zuri persisted, her determination unwavering. "I can't just stand by! You don't need to do this!" The mogul's face twisted into incredulity. "And what makes you think you can change anything?" With a sudden flick of his wrist, he pointed the gun at Zuri, and time slowed. Amina's heart dropped, panic flooding her veins. "No!" she screamed, lunging forward. But Zuri held out her hands, palms open, eyes fierce. "You don't have to hurt anyone. Please, stop this." A sudden crack echoed in a tense silence. A gunshot erupted. A visceral, bone-deep explosion that sent the crowd into a frenzy. Amina's world blurred. She stumbled, nearly falling to the ground. But when she looked up, the impossible happened. Zuri crumpled to the floor, her body folding in on itself, blood pooling around her. The crowd erupted into chaos, screams and shouts drowning out reality. Amina's vision faded, replaced by a dark blur. "No! No, no! Get back!" The mogul's voice boomed. The gun still pointed. But Amina was locked in place, staring at her sister. There was a lump in her throat, shock paralyzing her as she grasped Zuri's hand. "Stay with me, please." The words spilled out of her mouth like a plea to the universe. But Zuri's breaths turned shallow, slipping from frantic to serene. The world closed in around Amina. Everything she thought she knew shattered like glass at her feet. In that moment, Eli stepped forward, a look of devastation flooding his features. "I didn't mean for any of this," I thought. "It doesn't matter what you thought." Amina's voice broke, hot tears streaming down her cheeks. "You lied. All this for what?" But before Eli could respond, the crowd erupted into turmoil again, a warning shout ringing in Amina's ears. Shadows surged, faces twisted into throes of fear and anger, reality fracturing before her eyes. "Everyone back!" the mogul yelled, but his attention faltered. Then came the twist, the very moment that shattered the night. An explosion shook the ground, sending sparks of light through the tent canvas. A deafening roar, a flash of orange. The tent buckled, folding in like paper. Chaos reigned, debris raining down, screams morphing into cries of panic. Amina's heart raced. It felt like the whole world was crumbling. She grabbed onto Zuri, panic gripping her tightly, gripping the world too tightly, as if it would slip away. And in the chaos, as the dust settled for just a moment, Amina caught a glimpse of Eli, a flicker of movement, genuine fear weaving across his face. But then in a heartbeat, he disappeared into the dark. Amina's heart pounded furiously. She was left with choices seeping away like grains of sand. And as the crowd fled, the remnants of her family and dreams scattered. All she could feel was a grisly certainty that the night's unraveling had only just begun. What lay ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty, and Amina stared into the void, haunted by a whisper that echoed within. Who could she trust now? Amina's world spun around her. The chaos of the wedding tent, the sirens in the distance, and the dread that settled in her gut. She clutched Zuri's hand, panic surging through her. "Stay with me!" Tears blurred her vision. Zuri's breaths were shallow, and Amina could feel time slipping away. "Help is coming," Eli murmured, kneeling beside them, his eyes wide with fear and regret. His breath trembled as he glanced at the mogul, who now stood frozen, his gun lowered, caught between rage and shock. "No," Amina gasped. "You did this! You two are the reason we're trapped in this nightmare!" She couldn't help the anger that burned through her, and she squeezed Zuri's hand tighter. "No!" Zuri wheezed, her voice fading. "Amina, listen to me! Get out! Now!" But Amina couldn't leave her sister. It felt like a dagger twisting in her heart. The crowd was a blur of panic, a chaotic sea of faces, but none mattered. All she saw was Zuri. "I won't leave you," Amina cried, and the mogul stepped closer, his gun still pointed though his grip faltered. "You're all in this together!" His voice dripped with venom, as if he discovered their secrets. "Shut up!" Eli shouted, stepping defensively in front of Amina and Zuri, eyes darting around, searching for an escape. Then, in a moment of horrible clarity, Zuri lifted her head, her eyes fierce, just like Amina remembered. "I'm not afraid of you," she shouted at the mogul, strength bubbling through her pain. "You're just a coward hiding behind that gun." The crowd gasped, and Amina's heart soared, but just as quickly, dread flowed back in. "Enough!" The mogul screamed, tight with fury, raising the weapon again. "No, stop!" Eli shouted, but the air thickened with the tension of unspoken decisions. Then came silence, thick enough to cut. Suddenly, chaos erupted again. The door to the tent flew open, and more figures rushed in. Police with flashing lights, uniforms contrasting starkly against the horror of the scene. A sudden bump rattled the tent, and the air shifted once more. The mogul's eyes widened in shock. He turned, but before anyone could react, a voice boomed from the entrance. "Drop the weapon! Now!" In that instant, Amina lunged for Zuri, pulling her sister into an embrace, eyes sparking with urgency. The world felt electric, the tension sparking as police officers trained their guns, shouting commands. "Drop it!" The mogul hesitated. But before he could react, the officers charged, the moment erupting into pandemonium, the tent collapsing in on itself as people stumbled over one another, fleeing the overwhelming roar of chaos. Amina felt her heart racing, the world a whirlwind of chaos and dust. And then she heard Zuri cough, her sister's body limp in her arms. "Stay with me, Zuri," Amina shouted, panic digging deep into her heart. "Help me," Zuri whispered, her voice so faint. Eli's eyes glistened, the weight of everything he had kept in the shadows crashing down. "I'm sorry, Amina. I didn't think." "Save her!" Amina screamed, wide-eyed. "Just get her out of here!" Eli nodded, adrenaline igniting the determination in his eyes. He scooped Zuri into his arms, running toward the light of the exit, the officers hovering close behind. Amina dared to hope, but the echoes of violence still battered around them, shadows dancing, whispers swirling in the chaos. Outside, the sirens wailed, and lights spun, illuminating the ever-shifting landscape of uncertainty. As Eli got Zuri to safety, Amina felt a surge of fear and anger pulse through her veins. There was still so much left unsaid, so many questions burning inside. In the throes of despair, she questioned if any of this could bring clarity. But she was no longer the same girl who sat on the sidewalk, dreaming of a life beyond the pain. She would rise, each moment more profound than the last. Eli turned back, gazing at her with uncertainty. "Amina, But the noise around her faded, the air charged. "I'll find you," she whispered fiercely, eyes locked with his. As the dust settled, Amina stepped into the unknown, heart racing, formed by the strength of the past and the power she still fought to claim. The night had forged her, and just as quickly, it felt like the story was still unfolding. This is the moment to show your support. You have to subscribe now to make sure you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button to fuel the algorithm and flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this shocking ending. Don't wait even a second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see what just happened. Only true fans know how important it is to support the channel.